Okay, everyone, welcome back. It's time for some Google Slides and the latest updates in this otherwise extremely popular nowadays platform. We have someone that's a true expert in Google Slides with us, a colleague of ours from the UK. He also works in the presentation agency, and I would say one of the biggest presentation agencies out there. His name is Dudley, and he's with us today to show us what are the latest features and what are the latest things that happened in Google Slides in the last 1 year. Joey, take it away.
Hey guys, thank you very much for having me. This is kind of historic. This is my first conference. I'm super excited to sort of show you what I've got. So imagine you've attended this session because you want to learn what's new within Google Slides. It'd be kind of weird if you clicked on this session without without any interest in that. So I'm here to sort of help that for you. So I'm going to be covering the best of Google Slides sort of new features. And I also want to talk to you about how you can use Google Slides' sort of existing features as well to really sort of help boost that productivity, help sort of really increase that quality of life when sort of using the software. Now, over the past 3 years, Google have released very little, to be honest, in the way of anything sort of huge updates, but they have released some pretty cool features, and I do want to talk about them. And so, maybe for better or worse, they haven't really released too much. I'm only sort of talking for 20 minutes, so I think sort of them not releasing an array of massive updates is probably for the best. But I'm going to sort of talk to you about what's new in Google Slides, but also what can I teach you new in Google Slides as well. But we're going to start with Google Slides' updates. And so the latest sort of biggest update they've got is we've got sort of text box editing. There's a few different sort of controls that we can play around with that. One of them being Autofit preferences for text boxes. So if we've got these 3 text boxes here, for instance, you can see I've got like a sort of mid-length one, an absolutely massive one, and a tiny one. So if I click on these text boxes, I'm going to right click on any one of them, go to format options, and you can see what I get is I get my format options on this right hand side here. If I click text fitting here, I've got auto fit options just here. I can select different ones. So do not auto fit is literally what I've got selected now, and that means I can move this text box around as much as I like, and the sort of text sort of adjusts as I sort of adjust it. I've also got resize shape to fit text. And what that means is that as I sort of bring this in, the height of the text box is going to stay exactly, it's going to sort of, it's going to adapt with that text. And what that means is I can't actually click and drag and move this around, it's kind of locked into place like that. And finally, an interesting one is I've got shrink text on overflow. And what that means is if I shrink this text box here, the text size is going to adjust. The line spacing, the text size, all going to adjust to that shape. Now, the designer in me is screaming at you to not use that, but it can be really useful if you've got a text box like this, for instance, that's absolutely massive, and you need to reduce the text size on it. So if I select my text here and go to shrink text on overflow, this text is now sort of, it fits within that shape nicely. And the reason I'm sort of saying don't use this across like your entire deck is you're going to get inconsistent text sizes and line weights and line widths throughout your entire deck, and you don't want that. So what you can do is if you select the sort of the longest text box in your deck that you've got, in this case it's this one right here, make a note of the font size here. Here it's 12.5. Then what I can do is I can select my other text boxes by holding down Shift or Control and selecting those text boxes. And I'm just going to change that to 12.5. And you can see that brings that text size into a much more sort of consistent sort of sizing. And then all it is then is just a case of playing around with line spacing, which you can just find up here in the toolbar. But these sort of new controls, these auto fit controls, these are like one of the latest things that Google Slides have introduced, and they can be sort of super useful. In addition to playing around with our text boxes, Google Slides not that long ago recently introduced ways of sort of playing around with margins and indentations as well. And this is something that we get asked quite a lot. How do we adjust these margins? How do we play around with them? One thing that Google Slides isn't too great at is it doesn't sort of immediately show you what's new in Google Slides. You kind of have to figure this out for yourself or sort of look externally. So let's say, for instance, I've got this just one text box here, and what I want to do is I want to align it up to that line just up there. So what I could do is I could, use my smart guides, those red lines that are appearing on the left, to line that up. But you can see the issue is the line isn't actually lined up with the text box. And for the longest time, what we had to do, and this is going to destroy me to do it again, is I had to select a text box like this, hold that Shift key so that it kind of locks it onto that horizontal plane, and literally just drag it along so that it's kind of lined up with that line there. You can even use the arrow keys to really be precise, but this is just hurting me to do it. It's so imprecise and so inconsistent the way it works. And this is where margins can be really, really useful. So if I select this text box, and again, I'm going to go into my format options on this right-hand side, and I'm just going to go to my padding options down here. And the padding literally just controls the margins in the text box. So what I can do here is I can reduce my I can change all of these margins. The default is 0.1 inches. I'm going to set all of those to 0. So you can see now that text is flush against that box. And that means that when I use my alignment tools, so if I select the line and the text box by holding Shift and selecting them both, I can right click and go align horizontally left. And I now know that that text is perfectly flush with that line there. Again, if I select these align vertically top, you can see it's perfectly aligned to that top line as well. I don't really want that. I want to sort of increase that gap. So again, I'm going to go into my margins, go up into my top margins, and I'm just going to increase that size just so that I know, it's sort of, a better sort of way of sort of pulling it away from that line without literally dragging that text box down. And then you could literally just duplicate these a few times, and you now know that your text is all perfectly aligned, perfectly aligned with that line above, and the margins between the top are all perfectly aligned as well. And you've used your alignment tools to be able to sort of do that nice and neatly. Really, really sort of super useful. Another thing that Google Slides introduced, surprisingly not that long ago, is you can now edit your theme colors. So here I've got my four sort of theme colors. If I select one of these and go up into theme color, you can see that these are the sort of colors I've got selected. You can see like the little tick icon, which is in there. It's just showing me this is the theme color I've got selected. Now, when I've got that selected, if I click this little pencil tool here, you can see that kind of brings up my I can choose a theme color that's sort of assigned to the current theme that I've got on. And this is where we can play around with these colors. So if I select the purple one, for instance, I can type in a hex code. If I've got a specific hex code in mind that I need to use, really useful for sort of bringing client brand colors over into Google Slides, and get hold of that hex code, and you can pop it in here. And you can see what that does is it adjusts every instance in the deck where this color is used. Really, really useful. Nice and quick and easy to do that as well. So again, all I need to do to access these sort of theme colors and how to adjust them, select that object that I want to change the color of. I'm going to go up into fill color and select that little pencil icon there. And what's that's going to do is it's going to open up this option of all these different controls that I have where I can play around with my colors. Super nice and straightforward. And in terms of like what is sort of brand new in Google Slides, in terms of big updates, that really is all they've sort of released over the last like 2 or 3 years. Other updates have been sort of much smaller, much sort of less exciting, stuff that I don't really want to, things like, oh, you can now view it in dark mode on iOS. Like, no, we don't want to see that. That's not really all that exciting. So instead, what I'd rather do is show you things that exist within Google Slides that are new to you, things that that are going to boost that productivity and increase that quality of life when you're designing in Google Slides. And I think a really good place to start with this is a minor update that Google Slides released last year. And this is the ability to just sort of throw up a blank slide when you're presenting. So there are a million reasons you might want to do this. So if I just go into slideshow here, I've got my slides, it's all looking good, my statistics or whatever. But maybe while I'm presenting this, maybe someone's asked a question. Maybe for whatever reason, I've just got to pause my presentation. Maybe I've decided, I want to go off on a tangent. And while I'm doing that, I want your attention focused on me. That's like so key when it comes to sort of, presenting. So all I need to do to throw up a blank slide is if I just press the W key, it's going to fill my screen with white. And that means that all the attention is still on me, as it should be. You get to look at my beautiful face instead of looking at the slides instead. And I can also alternate between a white and a black screen as well. So if I press W again, it's going to come out of that and I can carry on presenting. But if, say, for instance, my the themes and the colors that I've got set in my slide presentation are a lot darker, for instance, let's say we've got a slide like this, it's much darker. And say my whole deck is looking like this, and maybe I'm sharing screen, people are in like a dark room, maybe we're in a big auditorium and full of people and we've got this sort of dark slide. If I press the W key to sort of, throw up another white slide, that is going to dazzle your audience and it's a bit too much. Whereas if you press B, it's going to throw up a black screen instead. So you can alternate between white and black screens depending on what color how light or dark your presentation is. This can be super useful if you ever need to sort of pause the presentation for whatever reason, but you don't want to stop, and you don't want to press escape and show everyone the sort of the slide deck, the kind of the Google Slides interface, which is much more unappealing than just a plain black screen, and much more unappealing than your faces too. Exactly, this is what we need. Now, we've already kind of talked about sort of basic text formatting options that Google Slides have recently introduced. Things like, our margins and sort of auto-fitting text boxes, things that we want to sort of stretch, make things bigger as we're sort of playing around with our text. But there are other text formatting options that we can play around with that, again, Google Slides doesn't make it really clear where these sort of text formatting options are. So if I select some text here, I've got some text up here in my toolbar that, text formatting options that I can play around with my toolbar. All the usual suspects are there, aligning to the left and the right and the center and changing the colors and the fonts and all that good stuff. I also know that if I right click on my text box, I've got things like indentation controls, really useful for when formatting bullet points or numbered lists. And I've got my sort of auto fit and my padding controls that I've talked about as well. But like I said, there are other controls, like what if I want to sort of add a strike through for whatever reason? I don't know why we're still adding strike throughs, but I'm not here to judge you guys. You can do whatever you want with your text. That's completely fine. But there are other options we can play around with as well. And something that's really, I've noticed is quite a kind of a common thing when sort of dealing with clients is a lot of their a lot of templates kind of opt for an all caps title. And titles can sometimes be quite long. So let's say we've got a massive title like this, and you've spent ages typing it all out, but then you realized too late that you didn't press caps lock. And this is one of these really annoying things where it's like, oh, I've got to go out and type it all again. Wow, look at these spelling. I really cannot type and speak at the same time, as you've almost certainly noticed there. But there's different sort of controls that we can sort of play around with to fix this. If I do want this to sort of go into caps lock, I can select it all. I can press the caps lock key. That's not going to do anything, and you know it. But what I can do is if I go up into format, which is just in my toolbar here, first one down, I've got text, and this is where we can find other little text formatting controls that aren't up in the toolbar, and they're not along that right-hand side of the interface as well. So I can find bold, italic, and underline. That's up there in the toolbar, but I've also got strike through if that's your thing. And right at the very bottom, you can see I've got capitalization. Oh, this is what we need. So if I go on uppercase, you can see what that does, excuse me, is it automatically takes all that text and throws it up into caps lock for you, so you don't have to worry about going back and typing it all out again. And this works in a sort of opposite way as well. If someone's being crazy and screaming at you and have decided to type a massive title or a big paragraph in caps lock, you can, instead of typing that all out again, if you just highlight that text, go to format again, text, right to the very bottom, we've got capitalization, and just change that to lowercase, and you can change it all back nice and quickly. A few other really useful things as well is we've got subscript. Let's say, for instance, I've got this lorem ipsum. I'm just going to copy and paste that into its own text box here. And I'm going to shrink this right down because it's just like a little Harvard reference, which is a combination of words I never thought I'd say again after uni. But here we are. I've got my sort of reference down here, and let's say I want a little one here. I want to reference that. Let's put a little one here as well. So if I wanted to sort of turn this into a subscript thing, again, it's super easy. All I need to do is highlight that number, go to format. I'm going to go to text, and I'm just going to click on superscript here, and you can just about see, I'm going to zoom in so that you can see that a little clearer. You can see it's shrunk that number one down without I haven't had to format or play around with the text size or anything. And then what I can do is, again, highlight the number one in the little reference at the bottom, format, text, superscript, job done. Nice and easy to sort of add sort of references like that without having to, format any text or shrink any text down. And what we're talking about, sort of playing around with formatting and how you can sort of quickly format stuff as you're going through it. A really useful tool is applying the format painter. And you may know about this, but if you don't, it's a super useful tool. And if you do, you may not know that you can sort of push it a little bit further. So I've got these three boxes on the top. Let's see if these are my nice on-brand boxes. I want to sort of bring the formatting from those boxes down onto those bottom three there. I can do it really easily. I mean, I guess what I could do is select this box and go up into my fill color and play around with the sort of the stroke and the weight of all this sort of stuff. I don't want impact. I think this is just man rope. There we go. But you can see this is going to take a long time to format all of this stuff, right? And all I need to do to speed this whole process up is if I just select the box that I want my new box to look like, in this case, it's this purple one. If I go up into the paint format tool, you can see it kind of turns my sort of cursor into this paint roller. By the way, the paint format tool is just this little paint roller thing just up here in the toolbar. Now that I've got that selected, anything I click, bang, is automatically going to bring all that formatting over and it's going to save me a ton of time. But you can push it a little bit further as well. So if I select this text box here, and this time I'm going to double click on the paint format tool. Bang, bang. What that does is when I click on a new box, it doesn't get rid of the little paint format tool. I've still got it selected. So I can just go crazy selecting other boxes. And it also carries across slides as well. So I can go onto these boxes and I can bring all of that formatting over. And you can see there's a slight issue there. What it's done is it's not sort of differentiated between like sort of the large statistic text or the normal body copy text. So what I'm going to do is if I want to bring that over, let's say this box is already formatted, it's looking good. I'm going to select this box, double click the paint format tool again, and again, I'm just going to bring that over. So that's a start, okay? I've brought my formatting over, but obviously the text is way too big here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this text here. I'm going to double click the paint format tool again, and I'm just going to go over this text and I'm just going to highlight it. And I'm just going to keep highlighting it. And you can see what that does is it brings all that formatting over without having to sort of play around with any of this. And, and because I've double clicked it, if I can't select all of it at once, that's okay. I can just keep sort of highlighting it, keep going over it until eventually I've selected all that text. And then all I need, press escape to come out of that. And then all I need to do then is just remove that space at the bottom. Super quick and super easy to sort of bring formatting over. And whilst we're, again, talking about formatting, sort of formatting text. Let's say, for instance, I've got this quote. Who doesn't love a good quote? I'm just going to come out of full screen mode here by pressing F11. Really useful tip if you're working in Google Slides. You sort of want as much of the screen as possible. Pressing F11 will make your browser go into full screen, which will hide your sort of your URL bar at the top. But let's say if it's going back to this, I want a new quote for this. So let's go to a new slide and let's just type in quotes. Who doesn't love a good quote, right? Quotes. Let's see. What's the best quote ever? If only we knew. Let's find some of the best quotes ever. Let's go with a Walt Disney one. Why not? So I've got this Walt Disney quote. All I'm going to do is highlight it. I'm going to right click and copy, go back to my presentation, and I'm going to highlight this text here. And then I'm just going to use Control and V or right click and click paste. Boom. Oh man, you can see it's kind of brought all that really gross formatting over from whatever quote website I brought this from. So you can see that the type is the wrong sort of, it's the wrong font. We want Gill Sans, we don't want Helvetica. It's 13.5 size for some reason. The color's wrong. It's also brought over this really weird highlight thing as well. I don't want that. I want it to look like this here. And yeah, I guess I could use my paint formatting tool that we've just gone over, but if I don't have anything that already looks like this, the paint formatting tool doesn't work. The paint formatting tool needs something to kind of latch onto to then bring that formatting over. But what I can do instead is when I highlight this text, if instead of pressing Control and V to paste it, I'm going to press Control, Shift, and V to paste it. And when I bring that over, that's automatically going to bring that text over without bringing any of its really nasty formatting over as well. So then I can go back into here again. I can highlight Walt Disney. I can copy that, Control and C to copy. And again, if I Control and V to paste that, it's going to bring the italics over and the really gross sort of highlight thing. But Control, Shift, and V is going to bring that over without bringing the formatting. And then I can highlight that text, go to Format, select Text, and at the bottom, capitalization, make it uppercase. And there we go. By the way, when you are zoomed in like this, a little cheeky tip is Control Alt and open square bracket. Sorry, Control Alt and open square bracket is going to automatically snap everything to fit. And guys, that's absolutely everything I wanted to cover when it comes to what is new within Google Slides. There's not like I say, there's not a million new features within Google Slides, but there's a lot of hopefully new things that I've sort of taught you, passed on a bit of knowledge on how you can sort of format your text and format your slides quickly and easily, whilst also maintaining, that nice sort of slick and on-brand feel for all of it. If you do have any sort of other questions or, sort of concerns about Google Slides or any sort of PowerPoint related questions, please feel free to visit the BrightCarbon website. We've got like a ton of resources on here. If you just go to brightcarbon.com and select blog, you can see we've got an absolute ton of blog posts here to help you out. And if you just go up into the search bar, type in Google Slides, we actually have the Google Slides Ultimate Guide, which has, it's an absolutely massive blog post, which is full of resources. Any questions that you've got, feel free to sort of check that blog post out. That's everything I need to go over. Thank you so much for having me. And Boris, I guess it's back to you, man.
Absolutely, and thank you for showing the ultimate guide or whatever it was called. It is a fantastic blog post. It's like a small book, I would say, even with so much content. Indeed, we'll make sure that we also put it in the chat. Together with your session. Actually, we are also going to paste it, make sure that it's also together with your session afterwards in the recordings, so that everyone can take a look at it. Joy, thanks for joining. This was great.
Thank you very much for having me.